Tara Westover and I have had a large difference in childhood literacy experiences. Tara grew up in a Mormon household where her parents were very strict and did not let her see the outside world very much. She started up going to college and getting her PhD. She ended up adopting new ways that once she got to college and ended up being very distant from her parents because of this. One small similarity that Tara and I have is that we both grew up in Christian families. While hers was a lot different than mine, my parents still taught me the Word of God. Our key differences are that I attend a public school and that she was homeschooled. This allowed me to experience a large variety of experiences that she never had before. This allowed me to learn a large range of subjects and be prepared for my own life. The second and last key difference that I have had is having a way larger social exposure than she had. Exposure to a variety of people and perspectives can contribute to a broader understanding of the world. This is why I think it was hard for her in college. Overall, I believe that Tara and I have had very different childhood literacy experiences. I believe that the Westovers that have PhDs are more literate in some ways than their siblings that stayed at home, but also are less literate in some ways. Those who pursued PhDs likely have a high level of academic literacy inside of their respective fields. They have undergone training, conducted research, and demonstrated expertise in specific subjects. However, it's important to understand that academic literacy does not always translate into proficiency in all areas of life. The family members who remained at home may have developed a different set of literacies that are rooted in unique experiences, such as practical skills and knowledge of their families, lifestyles, and beliefs. These literacies may not align with academic knowledge, but can be valuable in different contexts. In conclusion, I believe that literacy can be defined in different ways, and is not always based on how much knowledge you have, but sometimes on practical skills. I think Douglas's tone, use of language, and commentary reveals how motivated he was to read and shows how intense the situation was. During his narrative, he talks about how determined he was to read. You can tell by reading it that his tone is one of empowerment and determination. This really shows how determined he was to read, and he would do anything to be literate. I think his use of language portrays an emotional and piercing upbringing. He talks about when he lived with Master Hugh's family, his mistress was very kind and tender-hearted, but it quickly changed. By originally using words like tender-hearted, warm, and kind, and then later saying that she was violent, shows a very emotional time for Douglas. Overall, his tone and language shows a lot about Douglas's upbringing. Douglas's description of Mr. and Mrs. Auld make their characters come to life by describing the dramatic scenario of Mrs. Auld's transformation. Initially, Mrs. Auld is portrayed as a kind and tender-hearted woman who takes the initiative to teach Douglas the alphabet and basic reading skills. This portrayal humanizes her and creates an initial sense of hope for Douglas's education. However, the narrative takes a dramatic turn when Mrs. Auld undergoes a transformation. As Mr. Auld forbids her from further instructing Douglas, she transitions from a compassionate teacher to somebody who actively opposing his education. In conclusion, this makes the characters come to life by humanizing Mrs. Auld and giving the readers a sense of hope.